Unit 9.2, writing constructors for subclasses. I'm going to show a lot more than what's expected here. I'm going to bring in the word super. I know it's in 9.4, but we'll touch it here and then we'll touch it again. All right, constructors. What's the purpose of a constructor? A constructor's job is to initialize all instance variables. You call them instance variables, you call them fields, you call them properties, we call them attributes. There's so many words that we can use for this data. So everything that we needed to make the class needs to be initialized. I need to give this a value, this a value, this a value, from address to address. Now, here's the deal. Even though I don't give them a value, they do have a default value. So the default value for double is 0.0 for all three. Default value for string is null. Oh, by the way, this is not spelled right. I want another S for address. Okay. So put another S here. Okay. So let's see. What we have now is a default constructor and a non-default. There are only two types. Is either you a default constructor or you a non-default or a parameterized constructor, something with parameters. Here we go. Default, no parameters. Non-default, parameters. Simple as that. So because I don't have any parameters, I want to give all of these a default value. So for example, weight. What's the default for weight? 0.0. Postage. What's the default? I'm not saying that this should be the default. I'm saying these are the default naturally. Insurance, none. Okay, so you could have a different default. Let's say our mails had a default of $1 or 50 cents, and this would be 50 cents. But I'm putting the system defaults. So this guy here would be null. All objects are null. The to address, that would be null too. All strings are nulls. If it was a boolean, it would be false. If it's an int, it would have been 0. All right, what's the difference? Well, these are default values, but this one is not. See, the weight here is not just the weight of 0.0. It's actually the weight, and this is spelled wrong. It looks wrong. Okay, something is wrong here. My spelling would, let's see. Yep, it's spelled wrong. Okay, so everything here, I'm gonna initialize them with the guys here, right? So postage is gonna be, now you see this yellow line. I want to touch on that for a second, but I'll continue for now. That yellow line means something. It's a very common question, and hopefully you don't fall for it. All right, this is not good because these are brown for a reason. These are the dummy variables. These are passed by value variables. All this guy's job is when I create a mail, when I say new mail, and I put a value in for the weight, it's going to take that value and pass it to the blue one. This is the one that needs to hold the actual weight. This is just here temporarily for a very small fraction of a second. It passes the value. So what I'm doing right now is I'm passing the dummy value to the dummy. That doesn't make any sense. So I want to pass this to that. How do I do that? This. Watch the color change. See that? I just said that dummy weight is going to be assigned to the instance variable weight. And of course, I'll do it for all. Now that word this is not necessarily needed. It's only needed because the dummy is the same name as the instance. Like if this was W, I could just make that W and get rid of this. Now that's another way to do it because the dummy is a different name. So now I don't read the word this. Now, is the word this always there? Yes. This word this is always there, whether you write it or not. So I'm going to go ahead and go back because this is the correct way to do it. So I'm going to put this. And what does the word this mean? It's a self-reference. It's literally saying my postage. It's like me, my weight, my postage. Remember, an object is an instance of a class, a specific instance. So one object could have a different weight to another object and so on. So I'm going to put the word this here. obviously I just made the constructor for male. Okay. What about its kids? I can't make a constructor for object. Okay. Object comes from the API. Let's remind ourselves here. This comes from the API, so it has its own constructor. You know what type of constructor it has? Default, like this. Okay, so it comes with a default. Now I want to show you something. You see this non-default constructor? It's there because I'm saying when I make a mail, you give me all the information and I'll set them up. Now, what if I were to comment this out? Okay, watch carefully. And leave the default constructor. What happened to the kids? Nothing. You should be saying, well, what do you have to show me that? Like, what's the purpose of that? Wait a second. Wait a second. What if I take this off now and do the same thing to the default constructor? Watch what happens. Huh. Error here. No error here. No error here. Error here. No error there. No error there. A little weird. Not really. Here's what happened. See this mail? In order to create a regular mail, you must first create a mail. And in order to make a mail, you must first create an object. The instantiation goes from the top down. So the object is created first, the mail is created second, and then the regular mail is created. I know, when you say regular mail equals new regular mail, 3 things are made. Object, mail, regular mail. Not just regular mail. What does that mean? See, the kid can't be in existence without its parent. Let that one sink in. A kid cannot be in existence without a parent, right? The parent must have been born before the kid. So in order to create this kid, I must have created the parent who gave birth to that kid. And I have to create the parent above that who gave birth to that. So whenever you make something, anything like button equals new button, or there's a whole slew of objects that are created. It started up and it says objects made first, always objects made first, every time. Then whoever is beneath it, following the lineage. It's an extension, it's a hierarchy, it's called inheritance. I'm inheriting from all above me. So you come this way, this way, this way. Right? I cannot make that without making that, and I can't make that without making this one. So the objects made, the mail, then the regular mail. Like if I was to make a regular box, let me tell you what's going to happen. An object made first, a mail made second, a regular mail, then a box. That's how construction goes. And that's simply when we say equals new. So I'm going to build these, but what's happening here right now, it's saying I have no way of creating this because I can't make a mail. You will say, how do you mean you can't make a mail? Well, because a mail needs all this information. And if this kid does not have that information, I clearly can't make a mail. So the API breaks. Now, if I go back and I take this off, what you see there now is no error, because you will say, well, wait a minute, how come no error? Because you see, when you don't put a constructor in the kids, a default constructor is automatically there. There's a lot of things in the API that happens automatically, like casting sometimes happen automatically. There's a lot of things that happen automatically. Default constructor happens automatically, meaning if you don't put a constructor, a default one is there. So there is a constructor here right now, you just can't see it. There's one here too. All defaults, every one of them. So because I introduced a non-default, what these guys are saying is, if you're going to make me with a non-default, I need one here. So I'm going to go ahead now, and I'm going to make a default constructor in each one and a non-default in each one. I'm going to copy this. Okay, so I'm going to use that over and over to see the point drive home. So let's go to the regular mail. It's a regular mail. Actually, you know what? Let me just paste it here. so I could have everything. So it's a regular mail. How do I make the constructor? Same name as the class. Oh, by the way, if I don't put the word public in front, it's automatically public. I'll write it though. That's the that's the default constructor. Now I'm going to go to the non-default. In this case now, I need all the information. That's why I copied it. I need all of this. And then I need all of this. Oops. Undo. I want to put it in the second one. I'm putting it in the first. I just like to keep things in order. It's not necessary, but I like to do it. So right now I have a default and a non-default. See, like right now, if I were to do the same thing I just did by doing this, watch what happens. Regular mail says, hey, what's going on here? You said you want to make these two ways, but you're not providing a way to do it. Okay? Because if I have a regular mail, it needs to be created using the default constructor. If I have a regular mail this way, default constructor, I need to use the mail's default constructor. Remember, I have to make the mail before I make the regular mail. So if you don't provide a way to do that, I have an error. See? So it's not just doing the constructors, you have to think of the entire API. So now this is perfect because I have a way of doing it the default way and have a way of doing it the non-default way. Now this is not the only two. You can make as many as you want, but that's pretty much the way we want to go. So I can go here and do the same thing, right? So now let me just go ahead and do this regular mail and the regular mail default and non-default. Let me show you something. Ready? Super. That word super is calling the parent's default constructor. So make a note of that. Calls the parent's default constructor. So what this means is right now the mail is created by setting that to 0, 0, null, null. If I come down here, how do I do it? Well, I pass them up. I pass up the weight, pass up the postage, I pass up the insurance, I pass up the from address, and I pass up the to address. And an underscore. This is calling the parent's non-default constructor. This one. So I just provided a way of creating a regular mail. Because how do you make a regular mail? Let's go back. In order to make this, I have to first make this, and then I have to first make that. So object, then mail, then regular mail. So let's go ahead and check this out then. So here we go. Let's just do the default constructor. Watch. You might say to yourself, well, wait a minute. Object wasn't made. There's nothing here to make the object. And you'll be right. Here it is. Default. This is actually here. Whether we write it or not, I don't have to write the super like this. Whether we write it or not. Meaning, I could take it out of here. It's still there. That's still there. It has to be there. Every time you write a constructor, the word super must be there. Why? Because you have to make the parent before you make the child. That super is saying, make my parent. Now, here's a weird thing. What if I wanted to say int x equal 2? Watch this. Error. You see what happens here is that it's saying, hey, this has to be first. You have to make my parent before you make the child. See, this is talking about the child. I can't do something before my parent's born. That doesn't make any sense. Watch this. What if I put this down here? Perfectly fine. Why? because the parent's made, then you could do anything with the child. See, the word super has to be there and it has to be first. Now, you may say, well, so all those other times we're doing stuff, was the word super there? And the answer is yes. You just didn't know it was there. So right now, this super is here, whether it's written or not. You don't have to write it, it's there. Especially the default one. Because since object has to be made, an object only has a default, this has to be there. Now, obviously, since my API is a little bit more than just the object, I could add more. So that's the reason for this one. Now, obviously, you could go and do the rest of them. Keep coming down, right? Just making sure that everybody has the ability to create everything. Okay. I'm actually going to leave that for you as an exercise. See if you can fill this out. You can do every single one of these. Okay. And see if you can. And then when we get back to the next section, you can check to see if you were correct.